that's definitely part of coming back off the road. You know what I mean? So after being on the road for 10 years, I mean, I always wanted to do a WDBX show as long as I can remember. As soon as I figured out WDBX was a thing here and that we had this cool community radio station, I always wanted to do a show. Didn't always know what it was going to be. But so that was, I guess I was on tour with Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band from 2013 through 2023, so 10 plus years, almost 11 years or something like that. And then I started my show on WDBX in January 2024. So it was kind of the first thing I did after I didn't have to be on tour all the time. You know what I mean? And then, was
it really the very first thing that you jumped into after?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was the first week of January 2024. My last shows with the Big Damn Band was like the second week of December before that. You know?
Wow.
So, yeah, and then, I had a moment there where I was kind of floating and didn't know exactly what the heck would be next. I knew that I wanted to focus my attention here in Southern Illinois and Carbondale and the music scene here and do what I can to lift up this record label that I'd started. And I just sent an email to Janice over at WDBX. It's like, hey, what about a radio show? I've been wanting to do that forever. And she had a good slot for me, and I got right in there and started cranking on the pots there in WDBX, man. I've been loving it. So, doing all local stuff. The Sounds of Southern Illinois is what the radio show is called. And just playing all Southern Illinois music, keeping in line with the mission for the River to River Community Records record label that I started.
So did you start the label while you were on the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of more or less. I guess it was sort of a pandemic idea, So I guess the label launched in 2021. In fact, it's easy for me to remember that our first record came out. The record release party was Banjo Joe, 7-inch record with a few Banjo Joe songs, and that came out on June 18th, 618 day, right? 618 in 2021. That was when the label officially launched. That was our first release, and off to the races from there. Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's the cut-in right there. Say we're off to the races for episode 118 of the WTF Carbondale podcast, where we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, and we tie it all back to this little old place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois, with my lifelong buddy Max Senteney.
That's right.
Whether we like it or not, lifelong is lifelong.
I know it. I was just hanging out with my mom earlier, and she reminded me about you coming over to the pool parties, and we were. I don't even remember.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's like so far back in the memory banks. It's so long.
Our parents were friends, and we were hanging out hard when we were like 5 years old.
Yeah. And here we are, grown adults.
Yeah.
Doing the thing, trying to keep and put this town on the map like it's supposed to be.
That's right.
When did you pick up your first musical instrument?
I guess the first instrument I played was the trumpet, which was a grade school band thing, right? So that was 5th grade, I think, is when we started doing the band instruments. So it was trumpet, and I wanted to play trumpet mostly because my grandparents, I think, loved Louis Armstrong, and I did too, as a kid, and so I kind of wanted to be Louis, And just generally, I thought the trumpet was a cool thing. Everybody wanted to play saxophone, and I was like, nah, I'm going to play trumpet. I played that through grade school, a little bit in high school. I didn't play trumpet in the high school band, but I fiddled around with it for a while. But I don't know, but that doesn't really, the trumpet didn't really lead to, I feel like it didn't really lead to, like, my love and passion with music, you know what I mean?
Were you like around 18, like adulting age by the time you were like, no, this is really what I want to be at, where I want to be at with music, or your more modern interests, we'll say?
Yeah. It was more like 13, 14.
Okay.
It was, before I went to high school even. I was still playing trumpet, but got a guitar for Christmas when I was 13, almost 14, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And the guitar was the instrument where I could make music that was relatable to me and that sounded like the music that I like to listen to, right? Yeah. So yeah, 13, 14 is when I started playing guitar, learned how to do a power chord, which, for those of you that don't play guitar, it's just a simple 2 or 3 note chord that is the same shape that can work anywhere on the neck. So you just take that same shape and you move it around, make different patterns with that same shape, and that's punk music, So once I learned that power chord on the guitar, I was writing songs, crappy punk songs, but
songs are songs, buddy.
Yeah, but like I pretty much started out writing songs. I didn't really learn a lot of covers or stuff. I certainly never had a cover band or anything like that. That didn't interest me as much as like actually creating my own stuff.
What was your first band? Like, do you remember? I want to go through the whole lineage of Max Senteney's. Like,
I guess my first show would have been a talent show in 8th grade at DeSoto Days.
There it is.
The DeSoto Days little festival they do at the park there in DeSoto, and was it June or July? And it was me and Tyler Sanders, my buddy, and it was just a little 2-piece kind of acoustic duo, doing kind of, I don't know, emo. Sort of indie emo stuff.
Yeah.
So that was my first show, 14 years old, 13, 14 years old or something like that. That band was called Tips, or that duo, that is. And I don't know, we played quite a bit. I remember playing a bunch of shows we would organize shows in the back room of the Long Branch there, and that was a thing. Other like school things, we'd play like my parents' friends' parties and things like that.
And Tyler was a pretty good musician too, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
You guys were.
He was playing guitar. We were both just playing guitar. Yeah. He and I kind of came up playing together, for sure. Learned a lot from each other. We like didn't really take guitar lessons, and we just kind of figured it out and learned from each other. You know what I mean?
Was there anybody else musically inclined around you and your family, or any other influencers, or was it just like you just happened to have it and kind of ran with it?
There was a lot of love for music, but not musicians per se in my family. My brother did kind of like I did. He played music in band, He played the snare drum, which I still have that snare drum and still use it pretty often.
That's awesome.
But my parents, they loved music, still love music, and so I think I got my love of music from them for sure. They owned and operated a record store back in the 70s.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, from
like way back.
Yeah, we're talking like 72 up until like 84 when Reagan kept busting their shop. They were selling paraphernalia and all kinds. It was like a head shop, record shop. And I think it was like the 3rd or 4th time that their shop got raided. They were like, well, let's have kids and move down to Carbondale. But yeah, so they still have an immense vinyl collection. I learned to love vinyl when I was real young. And I remember spinning my first vinyl records when I was probably 7 years old or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they gave me that love of music and also the appreciation for like different kinds of music because they listen to all kinds of stuff, from Flying Burrito Brothers and kind of off kilter country stuff to rock and roll and a little bit of pop stuff from the 70s and 80s kind of thing. But yeah, they never played an instrument. I guess my dad played clarinet when he was in high school or something like that, but
not quite rising to the rock star level.
No.
So you're sorry, no, keep going.
They loved music and they always like supported me, right? So They encouraged me even back when I was 13 and 14 and sucked and made a lot of racket in the house and was wearing them out. And then they bought me a drum set when I was almost 14, going on 15, I think it was.
Is that your idea or their idea?
It was my idea.
Okay.
But again, they facilitated it, right? And they let me blow up the garage out in the backyard, and that was the practice space, you know. So yeah, I mean, I got them to thank for sure for, like, you know, just being a musician at all. I mean, that's where it starts, you know, and I think that's where a lot of people that might otherwise be very creative, they get shut down at a young age, you know, and it never happens. But you got to start somewhere, you know, and you got to have somebody that's pushing you and or at least encouraging you to explore that stuff, you know.
Well, and let alone to give you the bandwidth to make a proper career out of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a whole nother level of support beyond just, oh, well, we'll tolerate the sounds in the house and we'll buy you some instruments, but like it's a different level of you're going to tour the world and this is how you're going to make your living?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it, son.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they supported that. I mean, they're psyched about it, honestly, you know. Yeah. Of course, like a lot of people looking in from the outside, it's like this real glorious thing, you know, you hit it, you're doing the thing, you're touring, but like on the inside it's not so glamorous. It could be it's a struggle, you know. The days are long and it's a lot of just driving, going from parking lot to parking lot, you know what I mean? And you know, surrounded by a lot of you know, tempting vices and other things that trips up a lot of professional musicians, you know, when you're getting all the free alcohol you want every single night. A lot of people go down a dark road, you know, early on in their career.
Thank goodness you were touring with the teetotalers that you guys
exactly.
were, you know. That's why it was the Reverend's band.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, though, you know, it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. So I started touring with Reverend Peyton's
That was
Big
totally
Band
just a
Band.
joke. Were they actually like not drinkers and like totally like?
Rev Peyton don't drink. No,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Nice.
He hasn't drank for a long time, or, you know, do anything like that. Yeah, he keeps it pretty straight.
Nice.
Breezy will have a drink here and there, you know. And they're not like weird if you do have a drink, but, you know, they won't tolerate an alcoholic in the van.
Yeah.
For sure.
No foolishness.
And they keep that pretty clear.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and I started with the Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. I was 24, so, you know, it would be pretty easy to go down that path.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never been a huge drinker, really, so I never had a problem with it. But all that to say that, you know, I don't know if my parents really thought about that aspect of it, you know. They just thought it was super exciting that I was playing music for a living, you know, which it is, sure.
I love. So you first put your hands on vinyl records, which is like the core of your record label now. When you were a kid, like, so this has been like a life's long interest and passion, was this like presence of physical media in your world.
Yeah, I think so. You know, when I was a little kid, of course, it just was the way to listen to music. It's not like it was some kind of novel concept or like some cool nostalgic thing.
We just had records,
right? It was just like, hey, if you want to hear this record, if you want to hear this music, you got to put the record on. So yeah, my parents taught me how to spin a record when I was really young. I think the first one I remember spinning was the Who. That record, "Who Are You" by the Who. I listened to XTC a lot when I was little. Things like Oingo Boingo and Boomtown Rats. My dad loved that stuff, and to me it had like almost a cartoonish quality to it. This like kind of bouncy, sort of goofy 80s punk stuff. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, I loved spinning records, but it was just because I love listening to music, you know.
Now,
I mean, I did also, and my parents also, you know, embraced the kind of advent of MP3s and digital music and all that stuff, too. I mean, we thought that was pretty amazing compared to listening to records, you know.
Being at the forefront of stuff and like a little blend of like, okay, well, I mean, just kind of where you're at now, right? Understanding how to navigate the digital distribution side of things,
Yeah.
and the presence of physical media, and like building a bridge between those spaces. Like, you're pretty well prepped for the moment that we're in right now.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe my parents taught me a little bit about that, or at least how to like not or how to accept it. Maybe right. I don't know. Some people are strict in one way or the other. They'll never listen to digital music. It's all vinyl. Or some people are the other way around, won't mess with vinyl. But yeah, if you want to get along these days, you got to do a little bit of all of it, right? Certainly gotta, when I release a record, it's got to be digital as well as at least digital. We do a lot of releases that are only digital and not physical because the truth is that's where people listen to music. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you gotta do it all. You gotta do a little bit of both, and it's a lot. It's a lot being a one-man record label. But I'm not a one-man label either. I mean, I should say that like the thing I do, River to River Community Records, is a community-supported thing, right? I mean, all the funding that we get is donations that we get on our Patreon, which is like a sustaining online funding thing, campaign thing, right? So, I mean, I'm doing a lot of the footwork, but it's, all sorts of people in the community that are helping and also volunteering their time to help me with graphic design stuff or audio design stuff or engineering and things like that. There's a lot of people that are chipping in to help out as well.
Well, it's being dedicated to the cause, right? Like you're chasing after the thing that's bigger than Max because there is the thing that is bigger than Max that is here. And It's like, how do we bring that to the surface?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you were you born down here or did you move down here? What's the timeline on like parents coming to?
I was born down here, yeah.
Okay, all right.
At the Carbondale Hospital there. My brother was not. He was born up in. My parents came from northern Illinois, kind of middle of nowhere, northern Illinois. Okay. But yeah, born here, raised in DeSoto, town just north of here, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot going on up there. I was in DeSoto. Actually, I was outside of DeSoto, out in the country, So raised in DeSoto, Carbondale was always kind of the big city, and I was just always trying to get out of DeSoto and to Carbondale.
You guys were too far off out of town.
Well, when you're a kid without a car, it's a long way.
It feels like.
Yeah. I used to ride my bike into DeSoto though from the time I was like 9 years old or something. Which is kind of crazy my parents let me do.
Because that was when the road was not anywhere as paved or developed as it is now.
No. I mean, I think they had just paved it kind of when we moved in there. But no shoulders or nothing. And it was a good 3-mile bike ride or something to get into Carbondale. But I was just always complaining about, I don't know, when I was a kid I didn't like being in the country because all my friends are in town, So I think at some point my parents were like, well, just ride your bike into town. I'm not driving you in there. Like, all right, see ya.
I'm gone.
Never rode my bike or at least when I was that young, I didn't ride my bike to Carbondale. They wouldn't have had that. But
yeah, it was a little bit of a hike.
Yeah. Yeah, and, pretty much I've always been down here. I lived in Bloomington, Indiana for a couple years when I was working with the Big Damn Band.
Bloomington's a good little town.
Yeah, I like Bloomington a lot.
Bloomington's good.
It, reminded me of Carbondale in a lot of ways. Kind of art-centric college town in between a national forest and a state forest and stuff like that. Yeah, good art and music scene. Smaller town, but yeah, good college there. And lots of youthful energy, that kept it kind of a cool, exciting place. I lived there for a couple of years because the Big Damn Band was right outside of town there, so just to be closer to our headquarters, because we were on tour all the time. Yeah. Lived up there for a couple of years, but quickly realized that every time I was off the road, I just found myself driving back here to hang out with friends and family here anyway. Yeah. So I was like, well, why am I even living in Bloomington,
It's not that far of a drive, right? It's 3 hours, give or take?
4. Okay. A little over 4, about 4. That was before they had the interstate going all the way to Bloomington, so that was like a good 4.5 hours or something like
so
that.
it was a little bit more of a hike.
And you lose an hour going into Indiana, which I did not realize on my first day of work with the big damn band. I was pretty late showing up to the first day. Yeah, because I didn't realize the time change, but I also got lost on the way. I think I was like 2 hours late. But somehow they still tolerated it and kept me on there.
Listen, man, you were a workhorse. I remember seeing you, like, before you were the drummer for the band, just being, like, doing the road activity.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, dude, your hustle was
Yeah.
real deal.
Yeah. I mean, they kept you busy, kept you moving. Yeah, so I started in 2013, and I was the guitar tech for the first 3 years I was with them until 2016. And then the drummer left, and I picked up the sticks and started playing drums.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, guitar teching was, I don't know, it was fun. It was, in some ways it was more pressure than even playing drums.
Because you got to make sure it's whatever thing you're handing over to Rev is ready to roll.
Right.
Whether it's an axe handle or a cigar box or a sledgehammer, an actual guitar itself.
Yep.
Or
When they travel with, like, 7 guitars or something, all in different tunings, and you got to make sure they're all right. And then Breezy's setting her washboard on fire and shit. You got to make sure she didn't burn the place down.
Now, you said you picked up the washboard for the Woodbox Gang.
Hey, yeah, I did. Yeah.
How have you enjoyed the washboard?
You know what? I'm kind of digging it. I don't know.
Had you played it before?
No, not really.
Tell me about your newfound percussive. Washboard's technically a percussive.
Oh, it's definitely a percussive instrument.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell me all about it.
It's weird. There's a learning curve there for sure. It's not like playing drums necessarily, other than the sense of rhythm that goes along with it, I guess. But yeah, when Hugh and Alex asked me if I wanted to play drums for Woodbox Gang, that was part of the deal. They were kind of like, well, we're wanting to do more like the weird old kind of jug band stuff that we did, back in the day on the first few records and stuff. It was a lot. It was, the first couple of records, I think, is just washboard or other similar percussive instruments like that. But so I was like, well, heck yeah, let's do it. I already played rhythm bones, which is kind of a weird percussion thing, old-timey percussion thing. I was like, well, I can definitely do rhythm bones, and I could probably figure out washboard. Let's give it a shot, I watched Breezy play washboard for 10 years, so how hard can it be?
Surprise!
Yeah. And it's, it's funny because it takes a certain amount of confidence to, like, make it sound right. At first I was kind of timid with it, and trying to be dynamic, I guess. But if you don't really lean into it, it doesn't sound very full, and it's weird. But so I'm playing it with just quarters. I'm holding quarter in each hand and kind of almost strumming it. Where, like, Breezy Payton in the big damn band, she had gloves that she glued little thimbles to the end of the gloves. And I think Alex, back in the day in the Woodbox Gang, he did a similar thing that was shotgun shells on the ends of these gloves. So that they're playing with the whole hand, sort of.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to have a glove that I had to take on and off and deal with, because I'm going to be going back and forth.
You're doing a lot of transitioning.
Yeah. Between bones and playing regular drums and things. So I'd seen somebody somewhere along the line playing with just quarters or some kind of coin. I was like, I'm going to try that. And it was taking me some time to figure it out, but until eventually it clicked where it was like, oh, it is kind of like strumming a guitar. I'm holding it almost like a guitar pick. So, like, that's kind of how I've been thinking about it, and then tuning this hand almost more like a snare drum. But sort of just figuring out my own way with it, right? I don't know. It's certainly never had anybody show me how to play washboard, so I'm just kind of winging it, listening to these Woodbox recordings and playing along with them. But I think I'm getting in there. I think I'm passable.
Yeah.
And I'll be sitting behind the drum kit, kind of playing kick and hi-hat while I'm playing washboard and stuff too.
Well,
hitting other cymbals and things like that. Yeah.
It makes sense for you, of all people, to be able to multitask the drums and the washboard. I mean, if you bring in, I would imagine that your banjo skills have some sort of translation to the washboard.
Yeah, sure.
Like somewhere in between playing the drums and playing the banjo is playing the washboard.
Maybe so. It's definitely that hillbilly kind of percussive instrument, which a banjo is very percussive too. So I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah, I'll be playing banjo on one song at the show too. Behind the drum kit, strumming banjo as well.
That's
That'll
great.
be fun.
You're just gonna get loaded up with all the instruments behind the drum kit and pick them up and go as you go.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
What was the banjo that you got to play a couple of however many months ago or at the banjo museum? That seemed to be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So that was down in Oklahoma City. Is the American Banjo Museum, which I hadn't really heard about until we were driving down there. And Nate said, I think he said Lou Hendricks told him. I think it was Lou Hendricks told him that he needs to go see the Banjo Museum. And we had I think we had a day off even. And went over to the Banjo Museum. It was an amazing thing. A lot of 4-string banjos, which I was kind of like, I'm a 5-string guy. What's with all these 4 strings? But whatever. But I figured out it was because the guy that curates the place is a 4-string player. So I was like, well, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But right as we're getting ready to leave, we met this dude that curated the Banjo Museum. And I think he goes, you guys smell like a band. You must be a band. What's the band?
He says that out loud to you guys.
Yeah. And I couldn't tell if it was because we stank because we hadn't showered in days, or maybe it was all the weed smell. I don't,
Yeah, something.
Maybe a little bit of both. Definitely do smell like a band. And so we got to chatting with him, and he was super friendly. And he's a bass player and plays with a lot of heavy hitters in the bluegrass kind of world. Also plays 4-string banjo. And he was kind of showing us around the place and showing us some neat things with these banjos. And then I told him, I was like, yeah, I play a little bit of clawhammer banjo. He's like, oh, man, really? He was like, well, we just got Ola Bella Reed's banjo in here. And for those that don't know, Ola Bella Reed is arguably, let's just say one of the most important kind of clawhammer banjo players that's been recorded. And she recorded, I think, in the 60s and 70s, right around there. But plays in that traditional old-time style of banjo, which is what I play, clawhammer. And he said that they got Ola Bella Reed's banjo, and I was like, oh, my God, really? And then he just offered up. He was like, yeah, you want to see it? I was like, yeah, let's go. And they were closing the museum, but he kind of let us hang out an extra few minutes. Took us back into their little boardroom and brought this thing out. Said that somebody had donated it. An anonymous guy donated this thing to the museum with the stipulation that it doesn't stay behind one of the glass cases. This guy wants people to play it.
Wow.
Which is very cool. So this guy, Tyler, that's curating the place, I think he, when he sees somebody that's like, all right, this guy knows the deal.
Yeah.
Let's show him, Ola Bella Reed's banjo. And luckily, I guess I passed the test, man. And so he brought that thing out and handed it to me, and I was just kind of shaking. I couldn't believe that I was holding her banjo, and you could see her fingernail marks in the fretboard where she'd been playing that thing for years, so I did kind of a shaky version of one of Ola Bella Reed's songs, Undone in Sorrow, and man, I was just kind of reeling for the rest of that day for sure, but the next few days I was like, man, I can't believe I got to play that banjo. Yeah, she's definitely a hero of mine for clawhammer banjo stuff, as she is for many people. Yeah, the thing's still down there at the Banjo Museum. I think it'll be there, maybe indefinitely.
That's so you were doing that guy a favor when you picked up that banjo.
Yeah, he was psyched. He was pretty psyched to see, because he, like I said, he's a 4-string player, which the 4-string banjo is oftentimes a little more kind of jazzy or even ragtime sort of stuff, usually played with a pick, or maybe Irish. Sometimes Irish music's played on a 4-string banjo. But you don't do the old-time traditional claw hammer stuff on a 4-string. And so he couldn't play claw hammer. And he said they had just got that thing in a couple days before, and he said I was the first person that played claw hammer banjo on it. And he was, I think, almost as excited as I was, especially to hear one of her songs played on that thing, you know.
Like, you had it locked and loaded, ready to go. You.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea. I did not expect that to happen, but luckily I knew at least one Ola Bella Reed song to play on there.
Do you have other moments in your music career and life that stick out, kind of like the banjo moment there at the museum?
You know, I'm sure I do. I don't know. I'd have to think about that for a second, or something like that.
Is there anybody you've gotten to meet that you're just like, oh, this is great? Like, to be
Well, we did, the Big Damn Band did a tour with ZZ Top, which was pretty cool.
No big deal. Just ZZ freaking Top.
Yeah. And you know, honestly,
were you playing, or were you guitar teching at the time?
I was playing.
All right.
Yeah. It was cool. We did, I don't know, it was I think 3 weeks with him.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was right after Dusty Hill died. He died like a month before or something. The original bass player, of course, which was terribly tragic and sad. But then also we were like, oh man, is this ZZ Top tour not going to happen?
Yeah.
But they didn't skip a beat. They hired their guitar tech that had been with them for like 15 years to step in and play bass with them.
I see how this whole guitar tech thing leads to...
That's exactly right. Like, oh, I know how that goes. So the tour was on. Yeah, so we got to do a few weeks with ZZ Top. And, you know, honestly, I never met Frank Beard, the drummer. He kind of hid out. But Billy Gibbons was hanging out pretty hard, man. He was cool as a cucumber, and was just like still just so glad to be there. It seemed like, you know. And pretty much every day when we would sound check, he would be there kind of hanging out and just talking gear and shooting the shit with us and just being, you know, cool, normal dude.
Yeah.
He would he'd let us hold his guitars and play with his stuff, and his guitar tech was super cool, like telling us the deal and about their whole rig. He had Bo Diddley's guitar there on tour with him, you know, got to hold this thing. It was like Bo Diddley's actual guitar that he gave to Billy Gibbons, and Billy Gibbons didn't even play it on stage or anything. He just takes it around with him, maybe just to show it off.
I mean, listen, man, if you got an artifact like that, like, it's like that's your source of power. Like,
So, you know, that was awesome. Not that I've ever been like a huge ZZ Top fan, but obviously he's a legend rock star, you know, and just to be in the same room with him, let alone on the same stage, was pretty huge. He actually gave me this, let me see if I got it here. He even gave me this keychain. It was from Billy Gibbons. And it's from the... we played in Tupelo, Mississippi, and after sound check, he didn't hang out that time at sound check because he went to the hardware store in Tupelo, Mississippi, which is like this old school, all wooden floors and old time wooden shelves with like the ladder that slides down the shelf, and this like old timey hardware store, which they've kind of kept sort of period correct, because it is the place where Elvis got his first guitar. And it's kind of their whole claim to fame. I forget the name of the place now. What is it? It must be Tupelo Hardware. Figure that out. So we didn't even realize this place was here. And we were like, I guess we knew Elvis was from Tupelo, but didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
after we got done sound check, and Billy Gibbons had just gotten back from the hardware store, and gave us these keychains. He got a little keychain for each one of us, and then he let us use his like driver. Drove us over to check out the hardware store. Really cool. Yeah, he was great.
I mean, what a wild experience! Like to find yourself connected to Elvis's origins via way of ZZ Top.
Yeah, I know
that's a rock star story, Max Senteney.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, and it's why I keep this keychain on my side. Just kind of remind me of that kind of thing, and hopefully it doesn't fall off there one day. But for a while.
When you start to see the rubber fray, that's when it's going on the wall, not on the
exactly.
not on the hip.
Right.
But until then, you carry it around because it's a source of the magic.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still shuffling guitars and other things around for the D's brothers?
Yep. Still doing that. Working over there at Olivia's Vintage. That's another thing that kind of just fell in my lap as soon as I got off the road. They hit me up and asked if I wanted to come in there and help out at the guitar shop. Which, if any of you don't know, that Olivia's Vintage is, one of the most well-respected vintage guitar dealers in the world, really.
Yeah, just here in...
Is here in Carbondale. Yeah. And, it's mostly online stuff. You can make an appointment to go check out guitars if you're like...
They don't want you to know
a
where
serious
the
buyer.
We don't. The first rule of Olivia's Vintage is don't talk about Olivia's Vintage.
Yeah, right.
Oops, sorry guys.
Anyway, they are online, oliviasvintage.com. I think they, in fact, used to be in this room. I'm pretty sure here in the small business incubator.
Yeah, you know what? That's because we've talked about this before, and yes,
because it was one time when I must have been 16, 17 years old or something like that. And, because they used to have a store right there next to, like, the cellar. They had a little shop for a while. It's called OV&C. And I thought it was a cool little guitar shop when I was a kid. But then eventually it mysteriously disappeared. And I got online and was like, what happened to OV&C, And then I found an address, which was this room right here, the small business incubator here, right? And I was like, all right, well, I guess they're over there now. And I just drove over here and knocked on the door, and I don't remember if it was Joseph or John now, but one of them just kind of cracks the door open, and I was like, can I help you? Like, yeah, I want to go and check out some guitars. What's going on? And they're like, well, it's kind of not really open to the public over here. Like, all right, cool. But then, then I end up working for him, 15 something years later or whatever. But yeah, I'm loving it, man. It's definitely a cool place to be. A few days a week I'm over there dusting off guitars and packing them up, shipping them out, and taking stuff in and trying it out, making sure everything works. And it's a cool little gig.
I mean, you get to lay your hands on a lot of premier wood.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to
most,
refer to
most of them are wood
guitars? I don't know anything about musical instruments, Max. Just hold my hand, please.
You did great. Some of the coolest guitars in the world come through that shop.
Yeah.
That's no joke.
And people just know those are the guys.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it kind of like it didn't really click for me until I went down and worked a guitar show with them in Franklin, just outside of Nashville, just a few months ago. And, a big convention center with a bunch of booths set up, selling guitars, and people just wheeling and dealing cool guitars, right? And before I saw the whole, scene, the guitar scene, and how the Dees brothers fit into it and are, super well respected, before that, it was, kind of confusing to me, I guess, just how is it that all of these cool guitars are coming through here and that this place is just is doing this, you know. But for example, we had that booth set up, and Vince Gill came through. I mean, one of the best pickers in Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
and he said we had the best booth in the whole convention, you know. Brad Paisley was there checking out some guitars and things like that, you know. It's like, okay, well, yeah, these guys have been doing it a long time, and they have developed a reputation in the guitar world for like being very, very particular and thorough, but also I think just like real, you know. I mean, people can trust them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty cool thing.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing cool stuff.
Vince Gill just coming through and be like, "Oh no, this is it.
This is it. This is the one." Out of all the guitar booths there, yeah, it was wild. He was looking at this old Martin that we got in there, you know. Picked around on it a little bit. But yeah, it was neat to do. I'd like to do some more of those guitar shows. That was the first one I've ever done.
Well, and you fit the bill for the kind of guy that can stand by a booth at a guitar show and people walk up to you and go, "You smell like you're in a band."
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I guess so, you know. And I've been a guitar tech for quite a while now, you know.
So like, you work on instruments. You like do all, like, it's not just, "Oh, I'm setting stuff up, I'm tuning stuff." Like can you do pretty much anything with an instrument at this point that's one in your repertoire, or how does this work? I don't know.
I'm not doing everything,
Okay.
you know. I am learning a little more every day in there, you know, as far as guitars. I do a little bit of everything, but like not, you know, I mean, there's some valuable guitars in there that I'm definitely not going to try to do a neck adjustment on it or something like
Yeah.
that, you know, or open it up and get inside of the electronics or anything like that. But you know, I've learned quite a bit already since working there for, you know, a little over a year now,
Mm-hmm.
just about doing setups on guitars, as well as some of the you know, minutia about kind of authenticating and dating these things, and making sure everything's right, you know. Yeah, so I'm doing a little bit of the tech stuff over there. Definitely, you know, stringing them up and cleaning them up and giving them a general setup, making sure everything's fine, and signing off on it. You know, they jokingly will call me the quality control manager over there. You know, I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I do a little bit of that. You know, but a lot of boxing them up to send them out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ship them out.
Oh my God, it'd be terrifying to me to.
Which, yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming you're sending everything out in in as strong of a case as you can, wrapped in all kinds of stuff, and
Yeah, well, yeah. You know, the problem is, like, the coolest guitars often have the crappiest cases. It turns out. Like all these old Gibsons that just have the alligator chipboard cases that are falling apart, you know. So yeah, it's being wise with all the foam and bubble wrap and you know, double boxing them sometimes. But yeah, at first it was pretty nerve-wracking being
Yeah.
the last one to touch this thing before it gets thrown in the back of the UPS truck and God knows what happens next, you know.
that's why we have insurance, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
We do not skip. He said, "Yeah, sure. Well, of course we do."
But you know, so far I haven't broke anything
Too badly.
too badly. I had one minor little thing where the strap button broke on a guitar one time, but it was pretty minor. We sent him a replacement, no big deal. But definitely no like crushed guitars or broken necks, and I've been feeling pretty good, especially when I see all of the guitars that come into us and how terribly they are packed.
Oh gosh.
I'm like, I can't believe that thing made it in one piece.
Yeah.
And then I feel pretty good about what I'm doing. I'm like, if this thing made it, then we'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
That makes sense. God, that would scare the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Stuff's so fragile.
Yeah, no doubt. And we're doing amplifiers too, you know, boxing up these big, heavy amplifiers to send, you know, overseas a lot of times. it's a heck of a thing.
Well, when you're in a premium market like that, right? It's like you name your price, right? People like your clientele are at a level that the dollars don't actually matter as much as it is getting your hands on the stuff.
Yeah, to an extent, but also it's like the serious buyers are
know what something's worth.
Yeah, they know what something's worth, and they often have plenty of guys they can go to. And they're like, well, I'm not going to pay this. If you're charging this much, I'll just go to my other guy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, some of them, sometimes it's the guys that have all the money in the world that are just the most kind of stingy with it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That makes sense.
But yeah, so there's definitely a market. There's definitely a kind of market value on most of this stuff. There's some stuff in there that it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
Almost one of a kind things, but yeah. I forgot where I was going with that.
Doesn't matter.
Don't matter.
You're all gravy, my friend. So on top of Lucas, Wayne, and the Cottonmouths, and the radio show, and the record label, and the guitar shop, and any other projects that you have going on, and it was time to add the Woodbox Gang to the repertoire.
Right. Well, it's hard to say no to the Woodbox Gang, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of the most legendary band to come out of Southern Illinois, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And I've been listening to the Woodbox Gang for 20 years.
Yeah. Familiar
So-
with course material.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been studying for a long time. Except this new record, right? But yeah, it was a pretty low commitment gig though, because it's like maybe 2 shows a year or something. Woodbox Gang doesn't stay that busy these days. With Alex out in Missouri and Dan out in Colorado, it's not often that all the boys can get together and make it happen. Which was honestly kind of a selling point. It would have been hard to commit to another full or near full-time band at this point.
Yep.
If it was Woodbox Gang, maybe I'd shift some stuff around. But yeah, all that to say, plenty of time to fit Woodbox Gang.
As a longtime fan, what makes the band kind of like this mythic status to you, right? Because like trying to pull that out of Hugh,
Yeah.
he doesn't know. He lived it. He was it. It's hard to know what your secret sauce is when you're the sauce, not the person
Yeah.
cooking it. Or
Well, I don't know. I think it's probably many things, but not least of which is he was songwriting. He just has such a unique approach to songwriting that's it's hard to compare him to anybody else. But just such kind of poignant stuff. A lot of times, sometimes it's silly, but he writes the kind of songs that's like you have to laugh or you'll cry kind of thing. It's very oftentimes pretty serious stuff that you can dance and party to. So I mean, his songwriting, of course, is incredible, but also the trash can Americana sound that they developed back in 2000, late 90s, 2000, 2001. I think Trash Can Americana, the first record, was 2001, I think.
he went through the discography. I don't remember exactly everything that it was, but you're in the ballpark.
So yeah, but just being sort of on the forefront of that, I don't know, almost punk rock meets hillbilly country stuff, and that kind of Venn diagram there, that combination that not a lot of people were doing back then, but very much became a thing shortly thereafter, and I don't know if a lot of artists on a national level would cite the Woodbox Gang as one of their influences, but I think their influences definitely rippled out and did, change the game. I mean, they put out a lot of records on Alternative Tentacles, which is Jello Biafra's record label, the dude from the Dead Kennedys, right? So he discovered them, and he saw how special it was early on and backed them, right? And that's a lot of clout right there. And so, it's a combination of all those things, and just that the longevity of it too, that they're still going, and still writing music that is just as kind of timeless as the first record was, I think.
That is how I open it, and I can't remember if it landed on the podcast or if it was like in the 5 minutes before I hit the record button. But I said, to Hugh as we're talking, I was like, there's, it's one thing to be trendy. I said it's another thing to be timeless, and I was like, and that seems to be where you guys are at, right? And having to explain to musicians over and over again that I'm not a music guy, but somehow I land in this production world with you guys is always so very difficult because none of it resonates with me. None of it rings a bell up here. And
we need you types, though, because we hate doing that end of it. Yeah, but no, that's right. I mean, it's timeless stuff. I mean, this new record sounds like it could have been one of their first records, Yeah. Pretty much. It's maybe a little bit cleaner production, but like the writing style and the general vibe it's a Woodbox Gang record, no doubt.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's very cool, very cool. I am very psyched to be a part of it. I'm not playing on the record, other than I did put banjo on one of the songs, but I'm not playing washboard on the record.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You get to play it live.
Maybe the next one.
Hey, listen, man. You never like as I was telling Hugh, and I didn't remember the guy's name offhand, but I clicked with me later on. Jesse Wells.
Yeah.
And how he's got 15 years in the game and is starting to blow up thanks to TikTok and his consistency with the way that he pushes out material. And it was so funny because I was trying to remember who this guy was after Hugh and I's podcast, and I looked him up and was like, oh shit, and like Wally's buddies with him and like 10 other people are like mutual Facebook friends. Like he's just a shit kid from Arkansas who's been through any number of times
right
for whatever else. And I'm like, trying to be like, listen, Hugh, like if your idea here is that you want to transact a little bit more fame for the guys that you brought along for this ride for so long, like the internet's asking for you, man. You've been here since the early days of, as I described it, the socialized internet. Like this is, things are lining up, man.
And that's what Jesse Wells is pretty inspiring in the way that he's writing folk songs again.
Yeah.
That are just like telling the truth.
Yeah.
And they're often not like super like catchy, jammers, but it's just like the lyrical content is always so topical. Like something will happen in the news, and the next day he writes a pretty brilliant song about it.
Yep. Yeah.
And so he stays on people's radar. But it's inspiring that like there's a folk artist.
Is he somebody in your social circle too?
I don't know him.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember who all.
But I had the same kind of internet moment a few days ago when I was looking him up and I saw all his mutual friends. I was like, oh wait,
yeah, he's right there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, I guess.
Same thing with a kid, Freddie McClendon, who's out of I think Charlotte area. Can't remember exactly. It's one of the Carolinas, whichever one.
I'm not sure.
There's two of them anyway. But he's got a very like Jesse Wells kind of vibe in the songs that he's putting out there, and it's not as voluminous as Jesse. I mean, that's Jesse's thing, right? It's fucking every couple days it's something new and topical and just a machine, dude.
Yeah.
And
it's just all about the songs and the lyrics, especially. But he doesn't like overthink the production. He just puts up his tripod in the middle of the woods over there where he always does it, and he just cranks them out. But I mean lyric. He was writing, and his lyrics certainly are on that level, right? They're smart, important songs in that same way. Yeah.
And there's already an abundance of them, right? We were talking to this, and I was like, so, you've got how many albums that are studio albums, and that means X number of songs. He was like, oh, we did like 15 songs per album. He's like, we didn't put out an album if we weren't trying to use up every one of the 75 minutes on a CD.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's the measure. He's like, yeah, some albums had like 18 songs on them. Like, okay, all right. Like, and it's like having that catalog that you can get back into, because until you put it out there in this modern world, you never know when and how it's going to end up circulating and what can happen from there.
Sure.
Right. It's having that depth of catalog and material that can open a door that would otherwise wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, maybe he needs a social media manager or something.
I think he can handle his own social media. We just got to tweak him a little bit on his video production quality. We'll get him a microphone or two and maybe teach him how to stand in the right direction of the sun. Those two things, he'll be off to the races.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of being prolific. Just keep recording stuff. Just keep putting stuff out. But yeah, I don't know. I say that, and I haven't put anything on the internet in a long time. Yeah.
Listen, man, you put a weekly show out that ends up on the internet just as well as it ends up on the airwaves.
I guess so. Yeah.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, sure.
Oh man, what else we got? Let's talk Tiny Desk Crashers.
Oh yeah, might as well.
That's a thing. I think next year could be our year.
Next year's the one. We're getting there.
Listen, we got to show that we're not stopping, that we're not slowing down on these guys.
Yeah.
That you are going to pay attention to us in little old Southern Illinois and the programming that we are producing.
Yeah,
you're going to pay attention to us.
NPR noticed us this year, man.
A little bit.
I mean, they acknowledged us.
Yeah,
that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
As long as Trump doesn't shut down NPR before next year.
I don't think NPR will let itself get shut down. With support from viewers like us.
That's right.
Or from listeners like us.
That's right.
I was just watching NewsHour before I came up here.
Yeah. No, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. But yeah, dude, we'll do it again next year and do even more videos. Definitely more videos than we did this last year.
Yeah. I mean, even...
But all together now, we did well over...
We're over 200 in terms of number we've recorded.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not quite at 200 that have made it to NPR's site. I still don't know what the final count on this year was. I just kind of gave up at some point. It was like...
We hit our goal, and then, yeah. Good enough.
The goal hit us.
Yeah, maybe.
Listen, man, lessons learned. It's not these are not things that are on some finite schedule that will simply melt away. The visual quality of this year was great. Mm-hmm. The sound quality of this year was great. The management of the schedule, right? Like Nathan not scheduling 7-piece bands on 15-minute time slots.
We're learning. Yeah, and the talent that came in was great again, and a lot of great talent that we didn't get last year, even though we did freaking 150 videos last year or whatever that was.
Seriously, man, it was really a testament to what can happen when you operate in an environment like what we've produced here in Carbondale, that is kind of this listen, set the fucking ego aside, man. You gotta, and where we're headed as a town, we're this close to being little venue town USA.
Yeah.
Right. Everything from the thrift shops, new stage.
Yeah, that's cool.
That they built, to what Fletcher's doing with the old church, to the downtown stage, to the varsity, to the hangar, to Shryock in the arena. I mean, the
Boobies and PKs, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, varsity.
Let me not forget Wally and Abe. Shame on me. It's just to me, this Lost Cross and any other punk house, current or former, right? Like all of these things add up that are different than other markets, right? Like you could go to a city that's just a little bit bigger than Carbondale and find a bunch of bars that have little stages down them in a downtown movie theater and in whatever else, but you're not necessarily going to find the punk houses. You can go to a college town and find an arena or some larger showrooms for music, but you may not find all the different venues, or again the houses, or the other infrastructure. Or you may go to a place that's like in Nashville where it's got all sorts of stuff, right? But like then you get lost in the weeds, right? The DIY spirit of Carbondale. Go.
It's I mean it's what makes this place so special, because like you said, there's plenty of cities that have the venues, but they don't got the spirit, somehow. And I've spent a long time trying to figure out exactly what it is that makes Southern Illinois so special as far as their artistic and musical community here. And it's it is that I think part of it is the isolation here, and that we're kind of we're definitely our own thing in our own scene. And anybody that's making stuff here, they're not trying to be Nashville. They're not trying to be Texas. They're not trying to be anything other than, great musicians here in Southern Illinois. And so that spirit, that artistic spirit that's so special here is what's, going to make these venues special. It's what's going to draw people here for sure when they learn about it, So, yeah, all these venues opening up is just it's got me pretty excited.
Well, there's not a lot of the crossover that occurs here. That is not, there are places you can think of as hip hop markets, or places you can think of as traditional music markets, or places you can think of as rock and roll markets, or country markets, or whatever else, right? But there aren't a lot of places that are big enough to have all of the genres and all of the scenes, but small enough that all of these genres and all of these scenes are kind of just required to intertwine with one another in some fashion. Shared venues, shared performers, shared workspaces, shared studio spaces, the whole shebang, right? Like,
For sure. And I'm always trying to showcase that diversity that we have in the artistic scene here. I do it on my radio show. And like the compilation that we put out on my record label is everything from hip hop to weird experimental stuff and metal and punk and country, and I wanted all that to be on the same record for exactly that reason, to show off that like everybody here is supporting each other no matter what kind of music it is, I've done a couple of those sort of what I call the mini fests on the strip where I'd book bands at PK's and then on both shows at Boobies and try to stagger them so that, feasibly you could catch all 13 acts in one night for free right there on the strip, And I made a point to book all kinds of different artists, to remind people that, hey, we got all types here. We're lucky for that. Everybody should recognize it, and know that we got a special thing going on here for sure.
That's it. Special thing for this conversation was the conversation itself. Episode 118 of the WTF Carbondale podcast, featuring Mr. Max Senteney, Sad Max across the internet, available in many. I don't know. I feel like I botched that at the very end of this. Sorry. What a crap sign off, Max. Anyway, a sign off nevertheless. Have a good one, folks. Whatever that one may be.